Welcome to a continuation in my series on the symbols on the Magician's card. At the top of the card we have the number 1. If 0, the number for the Fool's card is the void, a kind of beautiful emptiness. Then how amazing is the moment when something comes from that. The something that happened when the Fool stepped out into the chasm. The one thing, the first thing, and then the first thing many times over and over after that. From the void, emptiness, into the moment that something comes from that. 1 is traditionally the number of creation, the leap into life of all things. 0 is the potential, but the spark of creation must enter into it for something made manifest out of it. On its own, 0 cannot be. It needs to become. 1 is the spirit of life, the caller of life out of the void, the power of making manifest. It holds traditional meanings of inception, new beginnings, onset of a new cycle of action, thresholds, creation independence, uniqueness, motivation, striving forward in progress, ambition and willpower, positivity and positiveness, all representative of the same energy of something becoming from nothing. And how then that evolves within us. Attributes of pioneering, raw outward energy, force, direction, activity, leadership, self-leadership even, assertiveness, initiative, instinct, and intuition. 1 is the energy which moves things into being. It's the power of reality through thoughts and actions, the power of focused will. A favorite description I saw of the number 1 was as imminent spontaneity. The what rises from within refers to the self, and also then the potential rising from the self. What the self makes manifest. Imminent spontaneity. Completeness. Wholeness. All is one, each thing as part of this beautiful greater whole. And once again, as below, so above. As above, so below. It's Jung's process of individuation. 1, the number, represents unconscious wholeness that moves into the number 2 as a conflict of opposites, the wholeness kind of spreading out and having a distinction, a set of distinctions within itself. 3 becomes the number of resolving that, the transcendent function, rising from that friction. And then number 4 as the transformed state of being, everything coming back together to a new whole. 0 is nothing. 1 is the spark of life. 2 as the brilliant separation and the friction created by that. 3 as the coming together of all things. And the 4th, what rises out of that which is greater than its individual parts. For me, it aligns to the magician. If I imagine the Fool presenting himself to the magician after his leap, he's come from a place of unity, leapt, his leap representing a yearning to return to it. But he must journey again through the process of bringing all the parts of the world and himself together to become one again with the whole. The magician's there to show him how. Irene wrote of 1 as that which is an indivisible and therefore eternal center. A unity that cannot be grasped by humans because everything perceivable is manifold and therefore divisible. For me, that led me to the true meaning of the card might lie in the magician's white robe, unity, and that which cannot be divided, with the red cloak of action being what is overlaid of the physical and understandable in the world around us. One is the power of everything when broken down into its parts, arriving at the one thing which cannot be divided, indestructible and eternal. The magician stands surrounded by a rose arbor, and then the lily and rose garden, a surrounding of physical life as a creation of sacred space. He stands, in effect, in a rose garden. These symbols could be a reference to the alchemist's Rosarium, the coming together of two things, the two becoming one, out of which a third thing is created. The numbers 1, 2, and 3. It's a hint of what is to come in the Fool's Journey. This card's about the work of life and what we make of it. And it is about the understanding that comes from that, of the machine of the universe behind it all. A hint of the alchemist's holy wedding, the union of opposites, which will become a consistent thread in the tapestry of the tarot. The union of consciousness and unconsciousness, above and below, within and without. The card represents the union of above and below, and the lesson of the Rosarium is that as a place of beginnings. What will the next cards teach in the way of what is created from that, if this is the beginning place? As we move from number 1 to number 2 in the journey of the Fool, the magician takes on his next learning. He learns he cannot do this alone. And before we leave the magician, before we journey on, one more thing that I wanted to share with you in the way of symbol. Strangely, this symbol is a relatively new one to me. My first teachers in tarot has never mentioned anything about it to me. I don't know if they had nothing to share, or whether they thought in my own good time I'd make my own discoveries in relation to this. This symbol is the white band around the magician's forehead. I don't think I ignored that it was there in my perusals of the card in my early studies of the tarot. I probably gave thought to it only to the extent that it might represent a circlet, a hint of the various headgear, crowns, and other accoutrements of royalty and accomplishment that seem to show up in cards that will be coming along. I never really thought about it beyond that. And then not too long ago I was reading P.D. Ouspensky's book, The Symbolism of the Tarot. I'd seen quotes from it a lot in my studies of tarot. Other authors writing on this subject quoted him often. He was a Russian mathematician, an esotericist. His book's available complete on the Sacred Text website. When I settled down to read it, I found a new favorite writing on the tarot. P.D. Ouspensky refers to the headband of the initiate on the forehead of the magician. You might recall when I shared Symbolism of the Fool as I saw it, one of the things that rang true to me was the Fool as the initiate, leaping into life, initiating into rebirth, choosing to, renewing incarnations, in the one thing and in the many things, the great and the small things, but choosing to leap again and again into the experience of life, leaving behind that which does not serve, and beginning again. So this white band around the forehead of the magician, on the other side of that leap, and as Ouspensky refers to it as the headband of initiation, it's the power of what that blindfold represents on the other side of initiation. While blindfolded, there is a trust in the experience, a suspension of hesitation and doubt, and a complete giving over. Once it's removed, on the other side of the experience of initiation, one is truly experiencing life on the other side. The full representing, the complete giving over, the leap and the leaving behind, which is a moment of initiation. The magician standing firmly and solidly on the ground after the leap, representing the what now on the other side of initiation. That blindfold still remains on the magician's forehead. He's always one step from returning, one step removed from the moment of initiation, and determining what he's going to make of that momentous experience going forward. Like that tiny leaf on the fool's staff, and then again as it appears on the magician's table, there's something very vulnerable and poignant and yet powerful about this symbolism, this blindfold, the band around the magician's forehead. A reminder to him, perhaps to all of us, not to forget the lessons of our initiations in life, the knowledge hard gained, the power of releasing and moving away and focusing intent with highest intention and purest ideals on what we create in life. The magician's blindfold has become a very powerful symbol of this card for me. Just goes to show, no matter how long you study tarot, there'll be a new symbol that makes itself known to you. And speaking of that, I welcome your sharing your thoughts on the symbols of the card, whether they differ from what I have shared in this video series, or whether you have things to mention that I didn't mention on the card. I was honest when I started with the symbols of the Fool that I have limited experience to share when it comes to astrology and the Kabbalah. I know there's symbols on this card aligned to both of those things, which it would be most welcome if you could share in the comments below or on our Facebook group. I'd like to mention again, what I share regarding the symbols of these cards comes from all the jottings that I've written down over the years. A lot of those jottings come from respected dog-eared books that I've wandered through, soaking up every word. I try to make note. I'm better at it now than I was in earlier studies, the sources of some of the comments I might make. Well, a lot of my take on the symbols becomes, as it will for all of us, my own personal interpretation of what they mean. A good part of what I share, the bones of what I share, is the result of the wonderful research and the sharing of authors that I've read. I do not intend in any way to plagiarize directly from anyone. There's no doubt, though, that accidentally I will, as I'm sharing with you from the notes I've made over the years, not always carefully annotated as to their sources. I hope you'll feel free to comment below. And if you'd like to join our Facebook discussions, that information provided at the end of this video for you.